There are parts of you that are written in ink, and there are parts of you that are written in pencil. You can adjust what's written in pencil, but if you try to adjust what's written in ink, you're always going to be out of touch and out of step with you.
Hello everybody and welcome to the next episode of Course Creation Show. My name is Iman Aghay, the founder of Success Road Academy and the creator of Ultimate Course Formula. And I am super excited for having our next guest, Natasha Todorovic-Cowan, on the call with us. Natasha, over the past few years, has helped me so much with different things in my business. And she also studied Ultimate Course Formula and is one of the top record holders of selling the most amount of course in the short time. We usually in Ultimate Course Formula is our course that teaches people how to create and sell online courses in 60 days or less. And we measure the success of our students for the first 8 weeks that they have studied the course. Now, whatever they have done over the year, 2 years, 3 years, we don't really keep track because there are 3,000 students. So it's kind of a little bit hard to track, but like within the first 8 weeks, we check with them. And Natasha actually is the second or the third. I think I heard somebody actually broke a record, but I don't have it in mind. That was just being so recent. But at this point, I know that she is the second record holder on selling the most amount of course in 8 weeks, which we're going to talk about it in a few seconds. But before we get there and just suddenly jump into talking about money and like all the things, let's actually bring her on board, saying hi. How are you doing, Natasha? Super excited for having you.
Hey, it is awesome to be with you, Iman. It's a treat, it's a pleasure, it's an honor.
Awesome. Amazing. And well, as I said, Natasha has helped us so much also with my business. She's the owner of a brand called the Spiral Dynamics, and they have this host of assessments and tools and strategies and techniques, and I can go on and on with these words because I have all of them, and they can be used amazingly for leadership. They can be used for team building. They can be used for working with clients. They can be used for pretty much anything that has anything to do with communication and leadership, and so it makes a huge difference understanding the tools and also using them in your business, which at the time that my team was big, like we had 42 team members, we actually wanted to make sure that we fix the things before things start breaking down, which was actually life-saving for my business. To begin things before things start breaking down, because I mean the team start getting to know each other. Actually, the core team worked with Natasha, and kind of that made a huge difference in the success of our business. Actually, Natasha, here's the thing. At the beginning of like one of the previous episodes that we had, I was talking to our guest, and we were talking about how many course creators don't realize that an online course, like when you create an online course, you're still running a business. So it's not like, hey, you're just having an online course. Your product is an online course, but you still are running the business. And like when I tell people, like we have a core team of several full-time team members, they are helping us with so many different things. And yet I start from scratch, like I started one person alone and kind of then grew. Like I think that's everybody did the same thing. And then but then the business grows, and as the business grows, the team grows. So we're talking about that. That's like how entrepreneurs have this weird sense about the course creation, and they think they're just going to have a course and that's going to be it, and well, it won't, right? And I know that you have a team, and your team actually takes care of different things and makes a huge difference. Now, before we start talking about all of those things, let me ask you the very first question I ask everyone. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your story, like how you got here, Where did you begin and how you got here?
So how many days do we have?
About 4 minutes.
So my world started actually in the fashion business, and I was a stylist merchandiser. My job was to predict trends in the fashion business in Montreal. And I don't know if you remember this thing called NAFTA, but
Oh my God, that was the greatest way of putting that. Okay, so for those of you who are not North American, there is this trade agreement in North America, or what is left of it now, but called North American
Free Trade Act.
Yeah, Free Trade Act. And then, anyways, there was an agreement between U.S., Canada, and Mexico that they could actually do certain trades with each other. And after Donald Trump came into power, he changed the way the NAFTA agreement was. So we have many students who are not in North America, so probably they have no idea about that. So anyway, so that thing that was called NAFTA at the time.
That thing that was called NAFTA at the time. So, I mean, I had this dream and I had my dream, and I was flying to Paris and I was flying to London and I was picking out styles and trends and I was watching it being produced and people were buying it. And it was like I was at the top of my game. And then my industry just completely disappeared around me. And I had no clue what to do. And, you know, there were the lumberjacks out west in Canada who were like, this is going to be terrible. Well, it was. They were right. But if you're in the fashion business, you don't listen to the lumberjacks because what do they know? And I didn't know what to do in my world with my life. I went to Toronto and I started taking these trainings. And I'd never taken training before in my life. And there was this stuff called neuro-linguistic programming. And I probably in a 14-month period took 160 days of training. I did Dale Carnegie, I did a lot of NLP, I did a bunch of personal development, but I was also delivering training. So I was delivering public speaking and personal development and sales training and a whole bunch of these programs. And I delivered 110 days and I took 160. Well, you know, you have to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
And that's where my training world opened up and began. So there, under 4 minutes.
Perfect. So tell us a little bit about the spiral dynamics, what it is, what it does, how it begins.
So spiral dynamics began back in the 1950s, though it wasn't called that, with the work of my husband's mentor, a research psychologist by the name of Claire W. Graves. And he was looking at the nature of human nature. And this was just off the back of World War II. People were just traumatized by that. And they were having these arguments about what is maturity. Because if we could understand maturity, that meant we'd be able to create mature people. And if we could build the mature person, then we'd have mature societies. And if we had mature societies, there wouldn't be war anymore. So it was a very contentious space. And my husband's mentor, Claire Graves, also watched Abraham Maslow savaged by his colleagues at an APA conference. And imagine somebody you admire, head in hands, on the couch, in the hotel lobby, just almost in tears, crying, why did they do this to me? And he's a young man and he's inspired by this moment. And he believes if I do my research, I can prove Abe Maslow was right. So he engaged in a nearly 30-year research study looking at the nature of human nature, looking at what is maturity, what is the mature personality in operation. And what evolved was this incredible data set, along with a series of models that described who we are at our core, How do we lead? How do we prefer to be led? How are there different forms of being taught? What are the different forms of learning? How do groups of human beings cohere and conflict? And how does that change at the individual level, at the group level, at the organizational level, at the national level? And my husband, young man at the time, meets Claire Graves and spends the last decade of his life with him. And this work was passed on to my husband. I met him in 1998 after reading his book, Spiral Dynamics, at the Spiral Dynamics training that he was delivering. We connected, and we connected in a really deep and profound and powerful way, such that we were inseparable. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We spent every waking moment together and every sleeping moment together. And we delivered spiral dynamics trainings around the world in about 15 different countries, on 5 continents, to thousands of business leaders and coaches and consultants and service providers and government and for-profit and not-for-profit. And I've been in places where it just really felt like we'd lived there for years. And in a sense, if you tally up all the time we had.
That's amazing. Actually, I think one time you and I were talking and you were saying like when you have like 1 million points on travel or something like that, 2 million.
Almost 2 million flyer miles. Yeah. Yeah. That was a lot of flying. Yeah. We were in South Africa. We were in Moscow. We were in London. We were in the Netherlands. We were in Latin America, a lot of different countries, and met some amazing people, and had our assessments translated in multiple languages. So coaches and consultants and business leaders and organizational development consultants could work with those, with leaders and teams and culture and change and all of that.
So amazing, amazing, amazing. So Natasha, let's go to your online course, Fueling the Changemakers. And tell us a little bit about the Fueling the Changemakers. That was the first course you created with me, with Ultimate Course Formula, right?
Okay, so I'm going to preface it by saying I'd created a lot of online courses, started going into the digital space for programs back in 2010. But it wasn't until I met you and went through your program and did it the way that you showed us how to do it, that it really clicked and it started working in an outstanding way for clients. So totally owe that to you.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I have the system and the training. The thing is listening to it and actually doing what I teach, right? We have a joke internally for those of you who this is the first time watching any episode of mine. But we have a joke that we say, Iman shares secrets every single day, but they say secret because nobody listens to him.
You know, Iman, I feel you. Same with my students. It's like you just talk and talk and talk, and it's like,
but you listen to them, you took action, same as you know, other people who we are interviewing here and did the work. And I mean, like you.
Well, it was genius. Who wouldn't take action and listen?
So tell me about the Fueling Changemakers. Who is the target market? Who is the topic?
So Fueling Changemakers. Fueling Changemakers is for business and executive coaches who are working with clients who are struggling with change. It's a certification. It gives them access to our Spiral Dynamics Change Readiness Index, and they can go ahead and use that with individual clients or with teams, and we show them how to do that.
Hey, this is Iman Aghay and you're listening to the Course Creation Show. If you want to create and launch your online course and you don't have a mentor who can take your hand and walk you every step of the way to successfully create and launch your course, please go to successroadacademy.com/apply and book a session with one of our mentors who can tell you all about how our mentorship programs can help you to create and launch your course. Now back to the show.
And and tell us about the first time, like the first 8 weeks that you created the Fueling Change Makers. You did, based on the latest number I know, you did $81,600 within the 8 weeks, and not counting the payment plans. So because we thought, like, if we were counting the payment plans would be much higher.
Yeah.
But we always counted as flat fee as opposed to payment plans. Probably with payment plans, we're looking at about $90,000 or something like that, $90,000. But and that was within the first 8 weeks, and then we stopped kind of like keeping track of that. Maybe you have it, but I don't. So you stopped keeping track of it either, or two, right? I mean, like, why would you, like, just gonna you keep continuing teaching more?
You know what, Iman, really, I mean, I've been developing programs and adjusting our spiral dynamics program for a really long time. I won't say how long. And by following your approach and following your formula and doing what you suggested we do, I built probably one of the most powerful and most enjoyable programs, both for me and my participants. Yeah. So it was absolutely outstanding in terms of the quality. And I have to tell you, it really went against everything that I'd been taught and I believed in, which was you have to first develop your program and then you test it with live people and then you nudge it forward. And look, we've been doing that with spiral dynamics for over 20 years, but there were flaws in the program and we're trying to figure out how to crack those. So it's not just about the fact that Fueling Change Makers emerged from this process. What emerged was a much bigger thing. It was a radical game changer in terms of delivery, in terms of working with my clients and my students, in terms of what this approach needed so that people could take it forward in a healthy and honoring and really productive way. So it wasn't just a course, it's really the launch into an entirely different business model and relationship with my clients that was the genesis in your program.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, I mean, like, it was phenomenal to see the work that you were doing and the impact that it was also making in your clients' lives and in the results that that they were getting. So let's talk about the first program, because I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I mean, like, 30,000 students, so I may not get all the numbers right all the time, but what I remember was there were two levels of the program. There was a $3,600 and a $6,400 level, or was it $3,200 and $6,400? Do you remember the price?
Well, I think it was, we launched it and it was the 50% off, so it's $3,600. It was 8-week. It was supposed to be the signature program, and what emerged out of it was it couldn't be the signature program. It had to be the certification program, and another course was built out of that. So the program that was built out of that was the Coach's Essential Toolkit, which was absolutely beautiful in terms of filtering for right fit clients. And one of the problems we'd had throughout in spiral dynamics is we kept attracting all kinds of different clients. And some of those clients made us miserable. And some of those clients we didn't want out there in the world with our assessments and saying that they were certified. And Chris and I knew that there had to be a different way to do it. We just didn't know what that looked like. And this process not only helped build the Fueling Change Makers program, the Spiral Dynamics certification on the Change Readiness Index, but it also helped to build the Coach's Essential Toolkit, which is the linchpin of the piece that was missing that we saw repeatedly in our research in terms of what our clients could and couldn't do with the materials that we shared with them. So that program became the signature program later. But like I said, the filter, because through interview, and you can't interview everybody for your programs, but in the interview process, I started really differentiating, you're great for this, probably not you. So when I went back and had that interview process, there were about 30% who I didn't even offer an invitation to join the program because they just weren't the right fit. And the Coach's Essential Toolkit helps people to prepare if they're on the cusp of being right fit. And it also filters out those who probably will never be. And it's good for people to know that in advance before their enthusiasm takes over their common sense.
I love this so much because it gives such a big mindset shift to people who think online courses are just recording some videos and put them on Udemy or any other website and like kind of get $16.95 per course. And the reality is that if you compare any of our successful students, any person who is successfully creating and launching online courses, anybody who has a successful 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure online course creation business, online course business, not a single one of us, or at least most of us, don't use that model. I mean, there might be like few people who do that and they are very successful, but like most of us, 95% of us, actually don't use that. What we do is that we use our course as a filtration process from people who want to jump out and say, hey, you know, I'm interested. You're like, okay, if you're interested, show me how committed you are. Show me how much you are willing to do the work. Show me, right? And it's a qualification process that while you are using it, you are generating income as well because it generates automated stream of income. But the more important than that is that you now have the experience of working with people, getting feedback, and seeing the result they can produce, and hand selecting people that can actually go to the next level and work with them. Now, the course in itself will help people to go to the next level. However, it doesn't mean just because the course exists, everybody who studies it gives it 100% or is ready for all the other things, because it's not just knowledge on one particular area, it's the skills on so many other parts that also gets a person ready. It's just a personality traits. It's there's so many things involved, right, with any higher level program. And so a course is just a filtration process that generates you income. For sure, it generates you income, but it's a filtration process that we put in place, and it allows us to go to the next level. So I'm so glad that you are talking about this, Natasha, because it just, when people understand this and grasp this, it just makes a huge difference. And obviously your success is just a sign of like, just follow this and listen to this and bring that to your world and implement it for your benefits and also for the benefits of your clients. So you just don't end up with having lots of people who are the wrong people in your program. Interesting enough, on another episode when I was talking to Christine Closer, we were talking about how sometimes there are some clients that you can't even get paid enough to work with them. I mean, like literally, there are such a wrong group of clients for you, and that doesn't mean that they are bad people. They're just a wrong group of clients for you. And your course, acting as a filtration process, will help you to eliminate working with people who don't have the same values. Doesn't mean they have bad values, just they don't have the same values and the same understanding. So you end up wasting much less time and giving far more value at the same time. So thanks, Christine. Thanks, Natasha.
And Christine.
Yeah, and Christine, actually. So I was thinking about Christine, college Christine. But yeah, but thanks, Natasha, for actually pointing that out, because it makes a huge, huge difference. So
it changes your life entirely when you're working with clients that you adore.
Absolutely. Now, Natasha, let's talk about the action learning virtual teams. What does that mean? What does that mean? First of all, what's an action learning virtual team?
Okay, so this is the approach that we needed to take because of the kind of material that we were working with. So our work is fairly theoretical, and trying to get people to understand other human beings from a theoretical perspective, it's one thing, but having them deep dive and finding a mechanism to do that, to teach one another, to learn, to be the coach to somebody while being coached by somebody. So what we did in order to make our programs work for our participants was we shaped them into what we called action learning teams that started on site and then that carried on into the online environment. And typically, our participants wouldn't have met one another. So they've got no commonality when they come onto the program other than their interest in spiral dynamics materials and tools. They might speak different languages, and English is their second or third or fourth language. And they're put together in a team-like environment where they're supposed to support one another, where they're supposed to give one another feedback, where they're supposed to coach one another and be coached and share learning. And when you can teach someone else something that you've been learning and share your insights, not only does that stick more, but by teaching someone else, you get to learn what you do and don't understand under our supervision. So the action part is you go out and implement it. So we'd have our participants in these teams, they'd go out, they'd do something, they'd bring that back to the team, and they'd share their learning. They also got coached in this team space. And this was before Zoom. So everything was in these long strings and threads. So they were coached either overtly, so everyone else could see it, or they were coached in private messages. But they'd coach one another. They'd accept coaching. So the learning that they took away from implementing things, they were pushed as part of the program to share. So that's where the learning part came in. And then the team part is, well, if I said to any other person who was an expert at building teams, you're not going to have people who have any reason in any way, shape, or form to have to get this done. They've never met one another. They're in disparate places across the globe. And what do you think the chances are that they're going to actually cohere as a team? And those developers of teams and team interventions would say, well, you know, probably zero. And high-performing teams in most organizations consist of maybe about 10% of teams. We had 300% over that, where the majority of our teams worked and worked extremely effectively. And we couldn't have taught this material without that team structure. So you build your program based on what the program and the content are asking. So if it's a skill-based, you're going to do that differently than if it's, say, a personal transformation-based or a relationship-based, or like ours was, a theoretically based program.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really, really, well, I mean, like I've seen the effects of it, but that's amazing on how it's set up and how you offer. So, do you offer this like in your company, in Spiral Dynamics? Do you guys offer this as a service or as a course? As like what, like what's happening with that? Like,
well, thanks to you, the entire thing has been re-envisioned and reimagined and really recreated. And now that's part of the mentorship program. And so there are a few more steps, because what was missing was really that mentorship. So we've got the learning components, we've got the team components for those that are ready. We're easing into it, because what we learned was it takes people about 6 months to really get into this service mentality of oh, I've learned something, now I'm going to share. I've failed, and now I'm going to share the failure. It's easy for you. You do that beautifully. But for most people, it takes a little while to warm up the group so that there's sufficient cohesion and connection for people to share those failures in an open way and be able to pick up and keep moving. And it's taken, some groups 6 months, a year to get to that place where they are that bonded. But when we've brought groups together, and remember, they'd never met in person, and maybe they've been working together for a year or 2 years. I've had some clients working with me for 5, 10 years. And when they come together and they've never met one another, and there's that kind of weird, well, okay, I know you, but I've never seen you in person. And that lasts maybe 20 minutes. And then the cohesion that they had online happens right in front of you in person, like magic. And it's like they've always been friends, and they have been. And the magical thing about online programs and this online team learning model is that, and I've done this with organizations as well, is that what's happening in the online digital space is exactly what's happening in the in-person space, but because all of the behaviors and the joking and the physical stuff is there, you miss those undercurrents. So this approach is genius at bringing out the undercurrents of what was going on in teams.
Right. So, and you said that you have that in a mentorship program.
Yeah, we have that in the mentorship program in year 2. So we've got year 1, and then if they can work in a team, if they can cohere, if they have a facility with the material, then we'll invite them to year 2, because I've got way too much material.
That's amazing. But it all begins from a 6 to 8 week course. So
it all begins with the 6 to 8 week course. Yeah, it was the linchpin that I really needed and didn't even know I needed until I started fitting it together. And you helped me. I mean, you were the mentor that helped me put together the way all the pieces fit. And it was utterly genius.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I'm glad that, you took action, made them happen, did the work. And how much is the mentorship program right now each year?
16,000.
16,000 for every year. And how many years is it?
It depends on how fast they get through material and how quickly they get sick of me.
Well, you said that year 1, they work on something. Year 2, they have access to this. So generally, like on average, how long will it take? Like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years?
We can get, and again, it depends on how fascinated they are with the material, how well it's serving them, how much they're applying with their clients. And I've had people with me for 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
And I've had people start, do a year, that's good. And I've had others start, do a year, do the second year, they're good. So it really depends on where they are, who they're working with, and where they're at with their journey with their clients.
That's fantastic. I'm so proud of you. Can't tell you how much how proud of you I am, and how happy it makes me to see that you are sharing, because the knowledge, the content that you have is life-changing and is very important to be shared and to be used in organizations, in companies, for individuals. And I can't tell you how happy it makes me to see that you're actually putting all of your content out, and you have a model, you have a system that works and gets you results, and it's growing. So Natasha, I always ask people one question, and before I ask that question, though, I want to ask you about your gift, because I know that you have a gift for people. Do you want to share? Do you want to tell people about your gift? What's your gift for people?
I think what we're doing is
attract clients you adore.
Okay. So the attract clients you adore. If you're a brand new coach and you haven't heard the notion of working with clients that are a right fit for you, you absolutely need to work with clients, not just try to find any clients, clients that you love working with, because there is nothing worse on the planet than dreading getting up and going to work with your clients. And that'll cause you to question what you're doing. It'll cause you to question your purpose in life. It'll kill your confidence. And if you're a coach, your talents, your confidence, and your internal game is what you have. And don't jeopardize it for a bad client. And if you already have clients that you're working with and you'd like to up-level your clients and work with a different client set or work with clients you adore, this gift will help you to think that through.
Absolutely. And you can find a link to that in the chat box for those of you who are watching us live, and for those of
Thank you, Sarah.
For those of you who are watching us on YouTube or listening to the podcast, you can find that in the show description below. So thank you very much, Natasha. Now I ask people one question, all my guests. What's your number one success tip in one sentence?
There are parts of you that are written in ink, and there are parts of you that are written in pencil. You can adjust what's written in pencil, but if you try to adjust what's written in ink, you're always going to be out of touch and out of step with you and miserable and questioning. So only adjust what's written in pencil.
Perfect. Now that brings up my next question, although generally that would be the last part of it, but how do we know what parts are written in ink?
We've got this amazing tool suite. There are all kinds of really great assessments out there. And if you're doing a personality profile, the personality profiles tend to be the things that stay with us for a lifetime. We can shave and soften up some of the edges, but we are who we are from a personality perspective. The stuff that changes is the stuff that we work with. And very often when people look at our work, they have conflated that with things that are absolute truths about themselves. And I think that's why they love spiral dynamics, because it gives them a release and a freedom to become all of who they were born to be and realize their full potential in the world and to recognize that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Natasha. I really appreciate you. And thanks for joining me and going through this. For all of you guys who are watching us and you want to create and launch your online course, but you don't have a mentor who can take your hand and walk you every step of the way to create and launch your online course, make sure to go to successroadacademy.com/apply and book a call with one of our certified Ultimate Course Formula mentors to get on the phone and have a one-on-one conversation with you around your course, around what you want to launch, and see how one of our mentorship programs can help you to create and launch your online course fast, effectively, and with massive success. And thank you again, Natasha. I really appreciate you, and look forward to seeing you at another event, summit, anything else that we do. Like,
Iman, it's been a treat. It's a pleasure. I adore you. The work you do is absolutely incredible. Totally changed the way I'm showing up and the way my clients are showing up. Best thing on the planet. If you're thinking of doing a program and you need a great mentor on course creation, Iman is the guy.
Thank you very much. Have a good day and enjoy, guys.